Defending the sacred or political exploitation? We examine Indonesia's blasphemy laws after thousands of protesters demand the arrest of a governor they say insulted the Quran. Also on today's program, Italy's next chapter. Prime Minister Matteo Renzi is on his way out after a crushing referendum defeat. What will this mean for the stability of the Eurozone? And in picture this, 75 years since the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, we revisit the bombings that flung America into the Second World War. I'm Jakarta, and this is the Newsmakers. Indonesia is home to the world's most Muslims, and it's often held up as a model for democracy among Muslim-majority countries. Among its many traits is its burgeoning pluralism and fair treatment of minority faiths. But one of its poster children for diversity, the Christian governor of Jakarta, has now provoked a major backlash among hundreds of thousands of Muslims. You see, over the past few days, protesters have filled the streets demanding the arrest of Basuki Tjahajapurnama, better known as Ahok. They claim he made comments insulting the Quran, and in the coming days he'll appear in court on blasphemy charges. Ahok is a key ally of the president, but this controversy may jeopardize his current campaign for re-election. Today's newsmaker is Jakarta Governor Ahok, as we ask whether his blasphemy trial is legitimate or political sabotage.
Thousands of impassioned Muslims protesting in Jakarta, calling for their Christian governor to go, after being accused of an affront on what they hold sacred.
Tangkap Ahok, karena memang apalagi sekarang sudah dibuktikan dia sudah menjadi tersangka.
Basuki Tjahajapurnama, better known as Ahok, is facing criminal charges for insulting the Quran. In a campaign speech in September, Ahok said Islamic groups were using a verse in the Quran to deceive voters into thinking Muslims shouldn't be led by non-Muslims. Ahok later apologised, saying he didn't intend to cause offence.
Kita ini negara hukum, ya taat hukum saja. Ya kan, kalau saya memang ditetapkan jadi tersangka, ya saya akan jalani proses hukum. Ya kan, kalau memang sampai kita dinyatakan salah atau tidak harus proses hukum. Tapi saya yakin saya tidak salah, nggak ada niat saya kok.
But the comment caused mass protests and calls for him to be imprisoned. They've been largely peaceful, although last month a demonstration did turn violent. For Ahok's supporters, the accusations of blasphemy have an ulterior motive. His ally, Indonesia's President Joko Widodo, accuses political actors of exploiting the situation, inciting anger to sabotage Ahok's run for a second term in February. Since succeeding Widodo as governor in 2014, Ahok has been opposed by the Islamic Defenders Front, who don't want him, a Christian, as a leader of the majority Muslim capital. This case has renewed wider concerns about Indonesia's blasphemy law. Human rights groups say it is used to discriminate against minorities, and rather than protecting religious freedom, it is increasingly breeding religious intolerance. Are the accusations against Jakarta's governor politically motivated? And is Indonesia's blasphemy law threatening its tradition of tolerance? Yvette McCullough, The Newsmakers.
Well, here to discuss this in studio is Mohammed Shironi Rofi. He's a PhD candidate in political science and international relations at Istanbul Marmara University. And from Jakarta, Zuhairi Misrawi. And he's an Indonesian writer, Islamic scholar and interfaith activist. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Mohammed, let's start with you. Do you believe that Ahok should be punished for blasphemy?
Yeah, because of the process, the law process is in progress now, and then we are in the position to talk about this case again because it's already in the hand of the prosecutor. They are continuing the process.
I know it's continuing, but I'm asking you: do you believe that it should be on their table in the first place? He's being accused of blasphemy. It's a serious crime. did what he say actually equal blasphemy?
Yeah, if you see the event, he is a government, public figure, and then he say specifically the verse of Al-Ma'idah 51.
He was saying they were using it to tell voters, don't vote for him because he's a Christian.
Yeah.
He was saying that his his political enemies were using that verse of Quran against him, whereas they shouldn't be. And scholars for 1400 years differ over its meaning and interpretation. So he was pointing out what they were doing. He wasn't using the verse. Zuhairi, do you believe that Ahok should be punished for blasphemy? And what's going on here? Is it about blasphemy?
I have a very peculiar opinion about this. In my opinion, I think Ahok is not enough to be accused as a blasphemer against Muslim, because first, even we listen fully to his speech, there are many interpretations. Even here in Jakarta, some of people said that Ahok might be accused as a blasphemer, but the intellectual here said that it's not enough to be a blasphemer because his speech might be has a result of many interpretation. This is first. Secondly, if we listen the fatwa released by the ulama in Egypt, they said that Al-Ma'idah 51 is not enough to be concluded as that the non-Muslim is not allowed to be a governor, because the governor is not related to the absolute power in the past in our history. So that's why there is not enough argument to be accused Ahok as a blasphemer.
Zuhairi, let me ask you, I've seen these pictures. There are hundreds of thousands of people, up to 600,000 people on the streets of Jakarta. Do all of those people believe that he committed blasphemy, and are they angry about him, or is it about something greater than that? Am I missing something?
Yeah. Sometimes democracy is very noisy. Indonesia is about 200 and almost 230 or 40 million people. There are two largest organizations like NU and Nahdlatul Ulama, and then sometimes we respect the demonstration, the opponent of Ahok, but let be rational. Let be look at to the point. First, Ahok already apologized for the people, and I think we should receive his apologize, because in Islam, even Islam itself, if you apologize, you should receive that apologize.
Okay, so let me pose that to Muhammad. Hold on a second. Muhammad, he apologized. In Islam, you have to accept the apology. If we want to play by these rules, right? He apologized. He said he was sorry. Why don't the FPI and others believe him?
Now I can say that the moderate scholar in Indonesia say if Ahok say apologize, just leave forget the case. That's finished.
Lives will be saved.
Yeah, lives will be saved. But
so
now,
why not?
In order to accommodate the snowballing of the case, because now FPI, Islamic Defender Front, they are using this case to delegitimize the government.
Right. They've been waiting for the opportunity.
Yeah, they are waiting the opportunity. So the win-win solution is to bring this case to the court, and then let's do debate in the court. That's the best option for Indonesian, because the cause of this demonstration is so huge. The last one in Jakarta to December is the third demonstration by the same group. Right. And the followers of this movement getting increasing.
Okay, so let me ask, Zuhairi, how do you think the court will rule? Will they let him off or will they convict him?
Yeah, it's also good for us, to open the court and to discuss in the court what is the reason from the expert, from language, from religion, also from other experts. This is good for us to discuss this issue because the blasphemy law, is it, a sort of extremist game, They're using blasphemy for political purposes, for political interests. We look in Egypt, we look in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So in the future, I think we should avoid, this kind of law. I mean, it's blasphemy law because, the extremists sometimes use this law as instrument, justification for political
Okay, let's ask Mohammed. Mohammed, do you believe that the extremists... sorry to interrupt you, Zuhairi. Let me get Mohammed's viewpoint here because we are running out of time. Do you believe that extremists have used this blasphemy law as a political instrument?
Yeah.
If someone you don't like says something, you cry blasphemy and you change the political momentum.
This is the cost of democracy. So in democracy, everyone can speak. Even now, the hardliner in Indonesia get space to express their opinion, and then they rally in the streets, and then they spread the information through social media to call the people, and then the people that believe in the movement join this rally, and in the big large, this is also involving other issue other than just Ahok, because now...
What other issue? Tell me.
The issue is during Ahok governorship, there are some groups that disagree with his policies. The urban, the poor,
people being evicted from their homes.
Yeah, because of the policies.
Okay, so
probably
So if I look at these massive pictures of hundreds of thousands of people, can I safely assume that not all of them are there for blasphemy? Some of them just don't like the guy because he might have been involved in evicting them from their homes.
Yeah, we can say that because of the policies of the government, the governor in Jakarta. Implied to the groups in urban area of Jakarta to join the rally.
Okay, so let's get Zuhairi for a final thought. Zuhairi, does that sound reasonable to you, that other issues are getting poured into this now and this is a platform for that?
Yeah. First, if we look at very carefully to the program of Ahok has already done, it's very wonderful, especially for the Muslim. He, for the first time, the governor, the Christian governor of Jakarta, who built the mosque in his office, and also he built many mosques in other places. He has a program very, very wonderful for the Muslim people in Jakarta. So the people in Jakarta, can decide that Ahok is a very good governor for the Muslim. He give money to the servant of the mosque to go to the Umrah, for pilgrimage.
Okay, so you believe he's a good governor for the Muslims? Yes, and unfortunately we are out of time. I've got to wrap. This story is not going to go away anytime soon, so hopefully we can discuss this again on the Newsmakers very soon. But for the moment, Zuhairi and Mohammed, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Italy's government has shifted more since World War II than in any other European nation. And now the revolving door of Italian politics has swung again, with Prime Minister Matteo Renzi falling on his sword. He staked his position on a referendum on reforms that his people strongly rejected. Some say Renzi's proposed constitutional changes were meant to simplify clunky legislation and boost the economy. But critics argued they would have given the ruling party too much power. His departure is seen as a win for Eurosceptics and another blow for stability in Europe, as Christine Pirovalakis reports.
Italy is in search of a new prime minister. The current one, Matteo Renzi, has said he will resign after he promised to quit if Italian voters rejected his plans for constitutional reform in a referendum held last Sunday. And rejected they did, with nearly 60% voting no to major reforms that would have cut public spending and streamlined decision-making as proposed by Renzi. Now, Italy's President Sergio Mattarella has asked Renzi to stay on until the country's budget is approved later this month. But he also has to decide whether to appoint a new prime minister or hold elections. The No campaign was spearheaded by the anti-establishment Five-Star Movement, which is poised to make substantial gains if elections are called. If it does seize power, it has promised to hold a referendum on Italy's Eurozone membership, possibly following the UK out the door, and potentially plunging both the bloc and the Eurozone into chaos.
Beh, io penso che gli italiani hanno voluto manifestare con questo voto non soltanto un no alla riforma costituzionale, ma anche un no fermo alle politiche del governo, alle politiche dell'Unione Europea.
Renzi risked his political future trying to change the country's constitution adopted in 1948. He wanted to strengthen the central government and weaken the Senate. But his opponents, including some within his own party, said the reforms would give the prime minister too much power. And a majority of people in Italy agreed. But the referendum was more than a vote on constitutional reform. It was a populist revolt against the establishment. And a victory for the Five-Star Movement heading the No camp, which took advantage of high unemployment and problems they blamed on tens of thousands of refugees arriving in Italy from Africa. The Five-Star Movement sees itself as part of the populist tide that has risen in the West, with Brexit and the US election of Donald Trump. Renzi, a self-styled reformer, had promised to shake up the stagnant economy, but after 2 years in power, did quite the opposite. Unlike other anti-establishment votes, the risks linked to Italy's referendum are more immediate. Italy's financial stability is now the worry. It is one of the biggest economies in Europe, but also one of the most indebted. And there are several banks in Italy that are vulnerable, including this one, the country's oldest bank, Monte dei Paschi di Siena. It needs 5 billion euros of investment by the end of the month to avoid being shut down. But political instability is scaring investors away and could potentially trigger a nationwide banking crisis. With Renzi almost gone and populist parties on the rise, people are wondering whether Italy will be able to survive this period of political transition. Christine Pirovalakis, The Newsmakers.
Well, to discuss this further, I'm joined now by Patrizia Catellani. She's a professor of social psychology at the Catholic University of Milan. Thank you very much for joining us, Ms. Catellani. There's a view from the outside that since World War II, in order to avoid another Mussolini, Italy had this clunky, convoluted, complicated system that didn't work, but it prevented another Mussolini, and that's why there's little chance of another Mussolini right now. That's why it needed reform. If that was the case, why did the people vote against reform?
Yes, that's a good question, because in principle, people would agree with the idea of a simplification. The problem is that this constitutional reform was perceived as very complex, very complicated by people, and also people expert in law, criticized some parts of the reform. That is the reason why people were scared that the outcome of the reform would be giving too much power to politicians. Then the game is easy in the sense that people have a very low trust in politicians. And so they decided that this reform could give too much power to the political elite. In a sense, the fact that the European financial strong powers, for instance, the journals, Financial Times and others, they were in favor of the reform because of increased stability that we would have. This was negative for some Italian people. Probably they thought that the economic powers would be too powerful. So I think Italian citizens were a bit scared by the idea that politicians would have too much power. And also they interpreted this referendum as a referendum in favor or against Renzi. This was a mistake I think Renzi did. Mm-hmm. So he linked his person to this referendum, and this was negative because then people replied as if they were voting for or against him.
Yeah, and then he fell on his sword like David Cameron did as well. Now, you mentioned that people were scared. Now it seems as if the people who are scared are the Germans and others. Lots of interesting pieces coming out from across Europe, talking of risks of new political instability for economic development, the financial markets and so on. They're freaking out a little bit. Do they have reason to be afraid, the Germans and others in Europe?
Yeah, well, the first reactions of the stock exchange and the financial system was not so negative. That means that probably they think that Italy can somehow lead or deal with this instability period. But certainly, I fully agree that the fact that we change governments and prime ministers so often, this doesn't help with the stability and the rest. I think basically we really need to have these elections, new elections quite soon, because now I think people are really ready to vote. I don't think the situation is so dangerous. Also, we have some problems as regards the political forces that could be that could lead Italy instead of the Democratic Party and Renzi's Democratic Party.
You're talking about the Five Star Movement?
Yes, that's right. The Five Star Movement was very successful, in going against, in being, a protest movement. So many people wonder whether they would be able to really lead the country. So they have a lot of favor at the moment. But we are still waiting for them to be more propositive, That is quite a problem, even after elections, because if we have elections, we will have three main parties, the center-left, the center-right, and the Five Star Movement. And the problem is, which government can we have if the power system is in this way.
Interesting times in Italy. Patrizia Catalani, thank you very much for joining us. Good to talk to you. In today's Picture This, a date which will live in infamy. That's how former US President Franklin Roosevelt described the attack on Pearl Harbor 75 years ago. Japan's surprise bombing of the US naval base in Hawaii marked a major turning point in World War II. Let's take a look.
States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
We sacrificed 1,177 men on that ship tonight. I was one of the lucky ones to get off.
You've been watching this edition of the Newsmakers with me, Jakarta. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.